Yeah, the tour, as I said, does the show that's going on tour does have a title, which is Scholar, Smuggler, Prisoner, Scribe, Miss Out the Spy. Because those are the sort of four main things of my life. So the scholar will be talking about sort of my university days, what it was like, as a university student, and the differences, I suppose, between student days these days and student days in those days. And smuggler, well, I'll be just talking about a few scams, obviously, obvious. Prisoner, yeah, talking about what it's like, teaching black gang members where to put the semicolons and stuff like that. So there would be looking into that, and then some, I suppose, what you'd call straightforward book promotion, really. I mean, just looking at my latest books and promoting them in some kind of mental way. And of course, I'll keep a sort of question and answer session going. I'll have to in Ireland, because it's almost mandatory, to sort of subject myself to massive interrogation by an Irish audience. I have to. And usually the questions are much, much better, of a sort of a higher intellectual level in Ireland than anywhere else.
Do you think the drug culture in universities has changed nowadays compared to the time that you spent in Oxford?
Yes. I mean, within universities, but I suppose when in the 60s, smoking dope was almost a sort of privilege of middle-class academics. It's shifted from that now. It's not. I mean, now the postman smokes dope and the plumber smokes dope and everything. So it's become a much more working-class drug. And therefore the elitism that we rather arrogantly felt, sort of our ivory towers smoking dope, thinking we were making intellectual exercises, and this was just for some privileged few. That's gone. That's gone completely, which is a good thing, obviously. And of course the profusion of other drugs, I assume, is a good thing. I mean, there wasn't any ecstasy around, acid. There was acid around, but there wasn't any cocaine or anything like that. So I guess it's a good thing that all these other drugs are being taken too. I guess, I don't know.
Do you think there's a link between drugs and intelligence? Do you think it would lead to higher intelligence? To do academic work like you did philosophy.
Yeah. I mean, there's certain evidence of that. I mean, Richard Feynman, the quantum electrodynamic Nobel Prize winner. I mean, he was a stoner, is a stoner all the time. Stephen Jay Gould, the paleontologist, professor of paleontology at Harvard, he smoked for the last 20 years of his life. So it certainly doesn't seem to interfere with that development. Francis Crick, the DNA man, he was an acid taker and smoker. So, I mean, there's plenty of sort of evidence that, yes, you can come up with innovative thinking, certainly in the areas of science and philosophy, as a result of being off your head.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think that's all the questions that I have anyway.
Sorry.
Yeah, the phone, sorry.
Okay, thanks. Why do I remember?
Get in a quick shot.
Okay, so in regards to, I know you're up to date in regards to the Irish question in regards to legalization of cannabis. In the short term, Ming is hoping to have 6 other TDs.
So for the debate,
just to get the debate on. So an awful lot of TDs, I think, from the principal parties on it will have nothing to do with this debate. But I think if it's kind of done in regards to, if you really believe strongly in not legalising cannabis, maybe you should have the debate to get your opinion across.
Yes.
Now, I know you don't like to come to other countries and tell people what to think, but for example, in Britain, is there anything as strong as this in regards to a full-on parliamentary debate? And if there was, what way would you like to see it being?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's stronger here than in UK. I mean, people have been fighting to sort of debate it in Parliament for 40 years, but I mean, it rarely is brought up there. I mean, the British tend to just turn a blind eye, or sort of, not enforce the law and things like that, which is well, it leads to sort of too much discriminatory prosecution, really. I mean, that's the thing, you know. If you just leave it up to the cops as to who they'll bust and when they bust it, you're going to get sort of discriminatory policing where, you know, immigrants will suffer a lot and sort of other marginalised people will be hit more than non-marginalised people. So that's the British way of dealing with it, you know, is to pretend everything's all right and use it when they feel like it, which is not a good way. I mean, it should be. I mean, it's because you've got to sort of, you've got to adhere to the principles of democracy, and so far, I guess, the massive majority of people aren't certain about which way to go, either here or in Britain. You know, and you've got to maintain democracy, even though it does require sometimes listening to two idiots rather than one wise man, you know, by definition, I suppose. But it's more of a feeling, isn't it? I think democracy, it's a feeling of, you know, desire for equality.
Yeah. Well,
and you've got to keep those two things in mind, I suppose. And of course, when you know, much as it irritates me when people talk about, you know, well, it's now a much stronger product, you know, than the one you were brought up on. Well, yeah, you just put less in a joint, you know, it's not rocket science how to deal with that, you know. You don't buy a pint of whiskey, you know, it's just crazy. But I guess there is a duty of society to protect the immature, you know, the mentally immature or the young, you know, so one has to, you know, like before age limits, I think, or some sort of acknowledgement of an age limit.
Yeah.
And those sort of things people want to sort out before they sort of put their hands up to it.
Since the US is kind of the epicenter of the war on drugs, how do you see Obama reacting to the legalization in Colorado and Washington and medicinal in Massachusetts since the last election in his second term? And would you have any advice from him, considering your expertise or your experience in the field?
I don't know. I mean, it's a very, very difficult thing to pull off. You know, I mean, I'm sure that he's pleased to see, you know, that some states have legalized it. I mean, before he got elected, I mean, he did, you know, sort of open and say, well, yes, you know, of course they inhaled, isn't that what you're supposed to do, you know, and did say the whole thing ought to be looked at. The whole thing has been looked at, admittedly, on the state level, sensibly, and not too sensibly on a federal level. But, you know, America is a bit unique in this, not totally unique, but to have a sort of dual sovereignty going on in the same place, you know, the state versus the federal law in it. The independence of the states is important, you know. But of course, until it becomes federal law, then there's the possibility that some people can suffer. So the advice was make it federal law, not just state law, I suppose.
Can you see that happening at all?
Well, I couldn't see states legalizing it before, you know, individual states. So that took me by surprise that suddenly it all started happening on the medical marijuana thing. So now I can see it happening, yeah. But I mean, if each state does it, you know, obviously the federal law is going to accommodate it.
You said a number of times you felt it might be legal within 7 years. Are you more confident at this moment in time, or have you been more confident years ago?
I was most confident, I suppose, in the 60s because, you know, the government report, the Wooten report, you know, was kind of vaguely leaked out to people, so that we knew that the government inquiry was going to say, you know, at least sort of stop penalising people for the, you know, that there was a move in the direction of legalisation. And when Houlihan actually, just as Home Secretary, refused to implement their recommendations, that shattered a lot of belief in, you know, how the whole system worked. And I suppose since then, you know, I mean, my most optimistic was in the 60s before Houlihan sort of put the mockers on it. I'm more optimistic now than any other time since then, yeah. But it was almost, you know, it was almost a certainty to most of us that it would be legalized in the 60s. You know, it was just no one thought anything else.
And if it was legalised in the 60s, do you think it would be normalised within global culture now, 30, 40 years on?
Yes, yeah, I think so, yeah. Yes, I mean, if it was legalised in Britain in the 60s, I think it would have caught on tremendously.
So do you think many aspects of the modern war on drugs wouldn't exist if they had implemented the policy a long time ago?
Yes, I mean, yes, you know, and the war on drugs, what is that, was first started 71, 72, wasn't it? It was about the same time, isn't it? You know, the change sort of happened, really. So, yeah, I think so.
An interview yesterday with Eamon Gilmore where he said he wouldn't legalise cannabis in Ireland because of illegal criminal gangs. Considering you would have worked with criminal gangs, could you explain to Eamon Gilmore
What's his position?
He said that when he was going for the election, they asked him on cannabis, and he said they would not be legalising drugs, even though he was asked on cannabis. He said they would not be legalising drugs, and he mentioned because of illegal criminal activity linked to it.
That doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
Right, okay. Just making sure I understood it. Yeah, it's complete bollocks, isn't it? You know.
Eamon Gilmore's in government, he's Taoiseach,
leader
of the Labour Party. But being all things fair in regards to a good argument, do you think there is any argument in regards to not legalising cannabis?
No, I've tried very hard to think of one, you know, just as an intellectual exercise. I can't think of one that's rational.
From a government perspective, like, what's the usual chestnut that they throw up? Psychosis?
Well, no, that's a fairly recent one, actually. Though I suppose, yeah, without calling it psychosis, they have it somehow or other banned for you. And of course that whole United Nations thing, you know, 1961 convention. That's an argument where we can't, you know, we signed a bit of paper saying we won, so we won.
So the day that it does become legal, and you were asked to organise a legalised party, what music would you like to have playing?
But to celebrate,
to celebrate the
oh, it'd have to be a
Freedom
Mali,
Day, I suppose.
have to be a Mali thing, wouldn't it? Have to be a variety of Mali songs, I think.
Well, thanks for taking the interview with us today, Howard.
Barra, my pleasure.
Appreciate it.
And good luck.
Thanks very much.